So there's this thing about virality where it's sort of the unlock. I feel like if you're a startup and you're trying to go start, back up. What are startups? Startup equals growth, right? Paul Graham, startup equals growth.
Yeah.
So if you're not explosively growing, you're not a startup. You're just a small business. You're the local
project.
Mom and pop, right? If your growth rate is not 7% week over week. And so like taking that view, virality is like the lifeblood of a startup because it can propel you to, from nothing into relevancy.
Yeah.
And then you can leverage that relevancy into longer term actual distribution engines. And so that's what we did. It's basically we took this ability to go viral every week or every 2 weeks, and it made us part of the conversation. And then we leveraged that into, we just had this template go viral with Leap and Replit or Leap and Vercel or whatever, Leap and Supabase. Let's go to those brands now who have established their own distribution and their own audience, and let's do co-marketing. Let's do something on their email list. Let's do a blog post about this viral template. And then that is all tailwinds, right? So now we're getting traffic from these, our domain authority is going up. If we get thousands of clicks from this SEO that we built up, that was partnerships parlayed off of virality.
It's interesting because it's like, it wasn't a real official partnership with Vercel initially, right? It was just Vercel is one of the best options to host your site.
Yeah.
So your developers worked with Vercel, like obviously just because they used it.
Yeah.
And then you can then go to Vercel and say, hey, look, we just drove this much traffic to our product with Vercel. Absolutely. Can we get an official partnership?
Exactly.
But then suddenly you get to piggyback off of their like Google search ranking.
Right.
I think wasn't AI Headshots like ranked on the first page of Google? Like you guys ranked
AI
for
Headshots is like an incredibly competitive search term. And now that Vercel, because Vercel has incredible SEO themselves, their template, which is really our template, is like, a top 10 result
for AI Headshots. The keyword.
Yeah, the keyword, which is extremely competitive and probably in itself worth thousands in value. But the reason it works is because we're actually giving them back something in return.
Yeah.
And that is an ability to be part of the trend, part of the zeitgeist of like what's interesting, and have developer mindshare. So really it's like attention, there's like that attention is all you need thing in AI right now, or that old paper. But it really is the moat for a lot of AI companies I see, where it's like they have the mind share, and the mind share can then be leveraged into more, let's call them permanent moats, which are typically in partnerships or in data. If you have a lot of signups and data coming through your platform, then you can leverage that into more longstanding moat.
And so I guess it makes sense why it worked really easily for like the partnership aspect, specifically for Leap and Vercel and Supabase and Zapier.
Yeah.
Because your target demographic was developers.
Yeah.
And anyone who used Leap at that point with the product at that point had to use a version of Supabase or its competitors, a version of Vercel or its competitors.
Yeah, they trusted those platforms.
But then how would you take that same concept and apply it to a more consumer product? So let's take Ultra, for example, which it's an email assistant that we're building, or an email product that we're building in the studio that leverages AI to like rethink email.
Right.
There is no partnership between us and Vercel because that doesn't drive anything for us.
Yeah.
How would you think about who to partner with for Ultra specifically?
Yeah. So again, it's sort of like maybe the app, back up. People buy because they trust people.
100%.
Right. So I think Ultra's viral hack is actually in the email footer where it says sent with Ultra. I mean, that's how Superhuman had their viral growth, right? True. And think about this. Actually, I was talking to Julian about this yesterday, where imagine if every user you acquire refers you another user.
Yeah.
If you can get that coefficient to 1, then literally you solved your growth problem, because for every person you bring in, they're bringing in one person who's bringing in another person who's bringing in another person. And I think it's sort of like a referred by Ultra. Now you can also at the same time, I think there are potentially partnerships. Like for example, in the email space, I use Spark, right? So I'm thinking in the email space, who are the players? Like, who are the cool kids?
It's like Superhuman, maybe Spark,
Okay.
maybe. Yeah, I would just say it's Superhuman. It's like cool players, like luxury software, like read-on software.
Yeah.
It's just Superhuman in my opinion.
But like, take, I don't know, Outlook, right? Like, they have sort of tailwinds because they had immediate distribution because of Microsoft Office.
Right.
Or like Gmail has obviously the Google Suite. But when they were getting started, Gmail actually leveraged an invite-only system. That's how they got started. I don't know if you knew this, but like they had at the time like something very novel, and that's why everyone was like.
I mean, Gmail was
excited.
the first time that you could actually manage your inbox. Like you could archive things
Yeah.
and search through things.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was all just like stagnant emails. You could delete it forever, but that was about it.
Right. What's interesting with Ultra is that like it seems like it's a social product. Because it's basically communication. It's like it's more to me akin to a social app than it is to a B2B in terms of what are the growth loops.
Would you consider Superhuman a social app then?
I think email as a channel is like, imagine
It's definitely a social channel.
it's a
Email
social-
is a social
yeah,
channel.
It's a social. So it almost like, what are the typical like consumer social sort of growth hacks? It's like people
It's
always
always
do
like you wanna-
invite only systems, referrals.
Figure out how to share it from one
You gotta
platform
share,
to another.
sync your contacts, and
Yeah.
let me email all your contacts, like that kind of thing. The long term, our long term is SEO.
Yeah.
And I think it's also partnerships.
Yeah.
For your long term, I think is a badass referral system where like I'm getting an email and I'm like, oh, what's this Ultra thing? I click it and it becomes like Superhuman, and now I have to use it. It's just word of mouth. But to get there, I already have it's all the same stuff.
Twitter or whatever.
Everything works, but it's just like, how well does it work? Because you could do paid and you could pour, but I don't know that would convert that great. But you could do influencer across pick your channel,
Yeah.
right? But who's probably the person that I trust to refer me email client is probably like Thomas Frank or
Ali
like
Abdal.
Ali Abdal.
Yeah, 100%,
Who are the
someone like that.
productivity, like where am I getting my productivity systems from? If they're going to tell me to use Ultra, I'll probably try out Ultra.